Stacy's Reflections from the Farm. You may have seen this picture floating around Facebook or on the internet. I was surprised to see it because I took that picture over 20 years ago. The retriever's name was Amanda or Mandy. She was very sick and in pain at the time of this picture. The kitten, Lucky, along with his brother, were my very first cats. They had just joined our family and were intended to be barn cats. So you can imagine my shock when I looked on the deck to see a very hurting dog with a basically unknown kitten nuzzled next to her face. I quickly removed Lucky and brought him back to the barn. By the time I reached the house, Lucky had already raced back to the deck and was snuggled in the cone with Mandy. That's when I got my camera. Lucky was stubbornly compassionate. All of my cats have become house cats for their safety, and Lucky remained persistently compassionate for the 19 years he lived with us. My Molly has always loved the snow. Her greatest pleasure is to snowshoe with us. However, snowshoeing for her is a real risk because 2 of her knees have sustained serious injury. Our last snowshoe of the season was a beautiful day, even though the snow was more like mashed potatoes. We figured that if Molly stayed in our tracks, she would be okay, so we took her with us. We had barely crossed the field before Molly took off in the opposite direction, chasing a very tantalizing smell. I commanded her to come back. She just lifted her head, looked at me, then ran off. I think that because she is now 10 years old, Molly doesn't believe that she should be told what to do. Unfortunately, she got stuck in some very deep snow and had to porpoise jump her way out. Molly eventually made her way back to us, but continued to take off after interesting smells and would get stuck in the mashed potato snow. Her stubbornness was fun, but I knew she would suffer for it later. After our hour-and-a-half snowshoe excursion, Molly dragged herself into the house and plopped down on her pad. She was instantly asleep. She missed her supper and spent most of the next day in bed. Sometimes our own pig-headedness can hurt us. Harriet, one of my original Angora goats, was the poster child for a stubborn old goat. In her later years, Harriet developed a heart condition. She would be calmly grazing and then tip over in the pasture unconscious. I would race out to rescue her. However, when I touched her, her eyes would fly open. She would angrily grunt and then roughly butt my hand away. Heaven forbid, if I tried to help her up, I would get a swift, hard butt in the shins. I suffered many bruises from this stubborn goat. Our intentional cussedness often hurts others. Adorable Callie relentlessly plays with everything. She plays with my craft projects. She plays with my decorations. And she even plays with the plastic covering on the floor of the room I'm painting. I have already replaced portions of that plastic several times. Callie's stubborn playfulness causes me lots of extra work, but she is so darn cute, I easily forgive her persistence. Then there are the goats. Goats are so stubborn about food. Watch how Ike pushes over the feed bunk to get at the best hay. Then listen as Yvonne lifts the latch to the door where Emma is being fed. Ike! Ike! What did you do that for? That was on purpose. You think it was easier to get into the feed bunk that way? What happened, Johnny? Huh?
Oh, you unlocked it.
Yvonne, what did you do? Did you unlock that gate? Huh? You want the food that's in there, huh? Sorry, but pushing on it isn't going to help. Little Johnny is now a year old. He is proving himself to be a true stubborn goat. He frequently continues to get his head stuck in something. So now he has broken the tips of his horns. This, however, doesn't affect him, only me. His broken horns cause not only bruises, but scrapes and gashes. Inadvertently, his stubbornness hurts his beloved mother. Yet, because of his tenacity, Johnny has found a place in the herd and habitually plays and butts heads with Ike. The only regret that I have had with any of my animals is when I rescued 2 bantam or small roosters. They were dumped on our road after a county fair. Initially, they were tolerable, but as they aged, Jimmy became mean. I know that a rooster's job is to protect their hens, but Jimmy takes that career to a dangerous level. Notice the long spurs on his legs. That little bugger is so fast that he can gouge you before you even realize it. Last year, he injured Todd in the lower leg. That gash turned into a nasty bout of cellulitis. I was awarded with a puncture wound in my calf that took over 3 months to heal. Jimmy's cruel stubbornness may lead him to becoming the first animal ever to be removed from my farm. The gift of stubbornness is like a knife. If you use that tool correctly, it can be very useful. When I hold a knife from the handle, it can be helpful. I have used my stubbornness to defy several doctors' predictions and have been able to do things they never thought I would. Yet, when I grab that knife by the blade, I, like Molly, have stubbornly worked myself to exhaustion and have even injured myself. Worse is when I inadvertently hurt someone else with my stubbornness. Stubbornness can show up in actions, biases, or beliefs. As we have seen in the Ripples of Faith video on bias, we often are not aware of our pig-headedness. It takes insight and work to use our gift of stubbornness correctly. Sometimes I wonder if God just looks at me and smiles thinking, will she ever figure this out? Truthfully, I'm not sure. But what I do know is I'll stubbornly try to use my stubbornness in a healthy way. Thanks for sharing this with me today. Have a good month, and I will see you in May.